All right, you're asking for it, so here it is. Listen to this.
I want you folks laughing at we partners pod, kid. You understand? We in here drinking, singing, swinging, all that shit, dog. Sweating, getting wet, and all that.
There you go. All right. Welcome to, I don't know the number, I don't know the day, I don't know what's going on, but this is DP Quarentimes. We are finally back in the studio. I've come back an entirely new individual. I'm married now and shit. This is my first podcast with my ring on.
Oh,
I don't know
shit.
if I'm supposed to just sit with this in front of the camera.
A little heavier over here.
I don't know what to do. I do like to show off my shit because fuck it,
Bringing the bling back.
No, because I found out in this marriage process that the woman gets 2 rings. So nobody explains that to you growing up. And when you don't see a lot of marriage in your family, you don't know that. I didn't know. So when they told me I had to buy that second one, I had to look in my savings account because that's not how my shit went. I hadn't pre-planned. I was like, oh, wait, there's a whole nother thing. But no, I'm happy to be back. DP Quarentimes, and we thought we were coming out of it, but apparently the world was like, we just want to keep it where it is. So we opened early. It's just crazy again. But I'm happy to be back in here with my fellas. I'm half of your hosting tandem, Ed Bailey, joined as always with my co-host, Dave Bracey. Say what up to the people.
What's good with you people? We are the Drinking Partners, and if you're looking for us, you can find us somewhere. Mask the fuck up. Also online at epicassnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at Partners Pod. Man, for years now, a little over half a decade, through the pandemic, we've been asking this. We will continue. We right through pandemics, through the ups and the downs, the good blends and the bads. We've been asking y'all, please hop on iTunes. Rate and review. That's how we know we're doing well. That's how we let others know that we're doing well. And that's how we continue to do well. So please hop on iTunes, hop on Facebook, rate and review.
Look, you love us. You used to see us out in public, and then we popped out in public for a second, and then we had to retreat. And you would tell us that you love us. So now, we need this more than ever, and this is serious. As we, again, try to readjust, try to cement how this thing's going to move forward, we need that feedback. We need you at the click of a button. Please tell the world that you love us, but also, come in and let us know what you want to see from us, what's working, what's not working. Give us a feedback. We do this for you. We can have fun sitting here talking to each other. We don't even like each other though. So we really do this shit for y'all. So we need that feedback, man. So, click of a button, please rate and review. And as always, this don't change.
Nah.
In lieu of rates and reviews, we still accept shots of Hennessy. All right. Yeah. Now, this pandemic, I know Wine and Spirits keep telling us that they don't have Hennessy, which I think is some bullshit. Like,
shortage?
There's a Henny shortage. Yo, the shortages ain't real. They done had a shortage of paper towels, lumber, and Hennessy. Tell me what type of...
Somebody's sitting on it.
Hey, some sort of crazy, there's a bunch of mass murderers come out of the fucking closet here in the pandemic. So anything that they want to raise the price on, they keep saying there's a shortage. There's a shortage of Henny. So we will accept those shots of Hennessy in the mail. They got the little shottles behind the thing. Send that to us, man. We really love that. Shout out to Car Guy DJ and the Conways. Congratulations to the Conways. They just found out, about the sex of their baby. Follow them online. I ain't going to reveal it.
Young Connie.
Young Conway putting in work. He putting in work.
That's wild.
He putting in work, man. But we love it, man. And you know what? We are giving you, a mass opportunity to see us. We'll be running around working hard as shit on September 11th at Barrel and Flow Fest. Just let go.
Yeah, man. It's going to be pretty wild. 75 breweries. 30, 40 black-owned breweries, 40 collabs. What we got, 25 musicians, 4 stages, 3 days, 14 speakers. We got 16 collab brews being shipped all across 25 states, featuring 32 breweries, and 16 paid Black artists, through this digital festival with 6 channels featuring chefs, comedians, brews, and musicians, man. It is It is massive. It is. It's what we need. It's 2 years in the making, and it's Barrel and Flow, September 10th through the 12th down at Southside Works, or you could be anywhere on the planet. And if you got $10 in the internet, you could hop on barrelandflow.com and get tickets to DigiFest. Again, 2-day event coverage of the in-person. Events going on. And, if you're listening, all the staff, all the staff, at the event, masked, or vaccinated, man. We gotta make sure that we're safe out here. This, Delta is serious. So, man, make sure if you're coming to this, make sure you get tested, man. Make sure you be, you safe out here.
Big vax, Barrel and Flow vibes, all right? And listen, bring your ass out. If you in Pittsburgh or if you've been to any of the festivals before, you know what time it is. If you got $10 in the internet, bring your ass online. If you don't have $10 or the internet, fix your fucking life. Yeah, okay, man. Something is wrong. Reach out to us on the side and just talk to us.
Go down to the library, man.
I keep $10.
You know what I mean? Get that library card. I know they open on Saturdays, you know what I mean? And it's going to be open. We got it for 3 months, right? So if you don't catch it that day, go down to the library on Monday, get a little card. I know that's free. I mean, hop them, put them little plugs in and get down on the DigiFlow, bro.
I don't want to discourage anybody from watching the library, but if you are, please send me a photo so I can laugh at you. All right? I just if you sitting in the library watching a musical beer festival, first of all, I don't even know if that's within policy. That's not neither here nor there. But we try and bring something new to the city, something that we brought to the city. Great vibes, you know what I'm saying? Great blend of artistry. You know what I'm saying, food, beverage, and all that things. But speaking of blending things, right, we're going to get into our guests because I'm excited. We haven't been in the studio for a little while, and we have, a wonderful guest lined up. This is going to be a wild ride or a smooth ride, or I don't even know I don't know, man, but...
Ooh. We're taking the high road on this one.
We're taking the high road. And we have Jervonne Singletary, Community Relations Manager of Goodblend, PA. Nailed it. And that's because I didn't try the product before we introduced her. Say what up to the people.
Hey, y'all. Hey, it's really good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for showing up. Thank you all for what you do.
No. Of course. You do it for the community.
I feel like that's always been the case.
Yeah, man. Shout out to the folks that helped get us here to this point. I mean, because we still appreciate their efforts and whatnot. But for the folks that don't know, I guess give a little bit of a rundown of who and what Goodblend is and how you came to be associated with them.
Sure thing. So Goodblend is your new medical marijuana provider. We have a retail store located at 5502 Baum Boulevard, and one up in Erie that we're going to be opening in the next couple of months. And so really our purpose is to make sure that our consumers are good. We want to provide high quality, scientifically backed cannabinoid and cannabis products in a really, really friendly retail environment. And then on the flip side, my role in Goodblend is really to make sure that the community writ large is good, right? So we want to make sure that folks have access to job opportunities with the cannabis industry, record clearing and expungement, make sure that you have your record clear for whatever you want to do, because criminal records impact minorities like us way too often. So we want to make sure that's good. We really, really want to make sure that we're opening opportunities to other people in the industry and bringing y'all folks in. And essentially just make sure the community is good, whatever the needs are, working with elected officials, different community groups, getting it together for the Pittsburgh area.
Okay, you had me at cannabinoid because that's not a word that I've ever associated with. But it's funny because to hear you speak about that, right? You speak about it, so eloquently, and you can feel kind of the mission behind it, and that's not always associated with this industry. I know, when you're in Pittsburgh now, when you start to see a dispensary, there's some issue with, they're trying to line it with gentrification. The people look at it like, why can they sell it now? I got a cousin locked up who was selling it, 2 years ago and things like that. But just to hear y'all mission and how you want to do it for the good of the community. I think that's a message that I don't hear often, again, pertaining to this industry. How do you enact that as a medical marijuana dispensary where you now, start talking about record expungement and getting folks, opportunity to work within the industry and, some folks who may be phased out just by virtue of systems, let's say that, like
colonizers.
No, I totally get that. So, when we're talking about cannabis, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar. Last estimate I read was like $50 billion industry, and you have tons of MSOs
on the books.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's
$1 billion.
Leroy got some homegrown, and he pull in about $5,000 a week. Sorry if there is a Leroy.
So we're talking an industry that has tons of opportunities up and down the ladder, right? If you want to become a bud tender, if you want to grow process, if you want to just do the artwork for the packaging, right? There are so many opportunities. And I think at the heart of Goodblend is really to expand those opportunities to different communities that have been left out of economic growth. And so that's Black and brown folks, veterans, LGBT community, and just make sure they're brought along in this process. I think that's really heart of what we want to do and why my role exists. I work with a bunch of organizations. We actually recently had an expungement clinic and webinar, so we give people the information on how they can get their records expunged and pardoned. We're going to be following that up with an actual clinic with the Pittsburgh Black Lawyers Alliance in a couple of months to have folks come in to our location and work to get their records expunged with attorneys and get free advice. We've hosted a couple of job fairs and webinars to let folks know about the opportunities and how they can apply and the backgrounds and skills that they need. We partner with organizations in Pittsburgh like Bidwell Training Center, and they have a great horticultural program. So we want to get folks from that program into the horticulture and grow process jobs at our facility on the north side. And then we have partnerships with groups like the Minority Cannabis Business Association. And through that, we really just want to expand our outreach to the communities. Oh, and lastly, we have a partnership with the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, and we're doing a long study on sickle cell and how cannabis can alleviate some of the conditions associated with sickle cell, which, as you all should probably know, really impacts Black and brown folks at a higher rate. Yeah. So, like I said, the mission and ethos of Goodblend is to make sure that you're good. And that's just that goes above and beyond, I think. A lot of other MSOs, not to throw shade, but it's really core to our mission. And that's kind of why I'm here.
That sounds like it aligns so well with Barrel and Flow.
Yeah.
Yo, what's going on? This is Pharaoh Lumber, Tribe Eternal Music Group. You can check my latest project right on Bandcamp. You can also catch me performing live alongside 75 breweries at Barrel and Flow Fest, September 11th in Pittsburgh, PA. Details at flowfest.beer.
It aligns so well with Barrel and Flow. And just the festival. And then, creating awareness around everything that goes into the industry. And in both industries, there is kind of a stigma about them, right? So marijuana, weed is thought to be criminal, but cannabis, is an industry. They never think that old boy down the street is selling cannabis. He's selling weed. That's a crime.
Moms are cool. Yeah. I mean, weed boys go to jail.
Exactly.
Moms.
But then, even if for some reason you can't be a bud tender or something like that, there's still all this opportunity to work along with contract to work directly under, that umbrella and bring your talents out. And a lot of times we don't in this industry, I don't know of anyone, in my circle who's even attempted or looked at a job in this industry. True. I know a lot of people who partake in, its product, but never I want to work there. How do I work there? And again, I think it's just the stigma around it.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, there's probably there's a whole industry just in naming these weeds. Who comes up with these names, and then the packages that come with them, and all the art. I'm thinking of that, right?
Are those legal?
Who's designing the new bags out here? So who's in their basement working with new plastics? How we keep this fresher, right? Ooh. There's all these industries around here, and I know because having known individuals who had partaken in things, there was some entrepreneurs that stood above the rest, right? That kind of blazed the trail to where we are now. And those are the things I'm looking at. Even if you're not growing it, even if you're not actually owning the whole business, you could find a hustle within that hustle, right? I mean, those industries around the industry.
Oh yeah, I think that's something I tell everybody when they ask me about how do I get in the industry. It's an old quote. When it's the gold rush, it's a great time to sell picks and shovels. So that picks and shovels market is known. It's known market, and it's a bigger market than the plant touching market, right? Because you have packaging, you have design, you need the plastics, you need sales, you need marketing, you need legal compliance. There's so many things to do in the non-plant touching industry. that folks just really aren't thinking about it. And this is a brand new industry that we're gonna have to set up from the ground up, right? PA is dope. It has an amazing medical market. It's so much opportunity, but y'all are getting ready to move to adult use. And that's going to open up the floodgates for folks to really get involved in the industry. Thankfully, you're not going to do adult use like you do your liquor. I'm not really a fan of this state-owned thing where the store closes at 6 o'clock. Yeah. So you won't be doing adult use like you do your liquor sales. And that means it's going to open up so much opportunity to folks. If folks really want to think about how to get involved in the industry, I tell everybody just to start where you are. Like, what do you do great, and how can you translate that to the cannabis space?
So, what if I am in the group? I'm the roller. How do I get on with Goodblend? I don't show up with the product, but I roll it well.
So, this is a little bit of a disclosure right now in Pennsylvania. You cannot technically combust cannabis. You can vaporize it, but you can't light fire.
You can't though. Oh, okay.
I don't combust it. I smoke it.
The thing is, per the law, right? You can vaporize it, but you can't combust it. But hopefully that does change with adult use, because we know that flower is one of the top grossing products in the cannabis space. Mm-hmm. And so for those who want to roll, like pre-rolls are a segment of the space that's really increasing exponentially, right? Because folks are kind of lazy. No one wants to take the time to actually grind the weed and roll the weed and do a filter.
That's efficient. That's efficient.
When are they lazy? I take exception. I'm just taking advantage of new technologies and industries. I'm a futurist.
For me,
I'm a futurist. I ain't lazy.
Look, if you get to a certain...
I'm an old head smoker. I want to do the whole process. Right. I want to grind it. I want to take out the stems and whatever. I really want to commune with my weed before I consume it. Some of y'all like it, you know what I'm saying, rushed and everything.
Nah,
ritual. I get that.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Like last night, I went to a sneaker ball out here, right? We were running late, and it was like, all right, if I wanted to, you know what I'm saying, smoke something, it was going to be a situation where I was going to be even more late, or if I could just grab a pre-roll real quick where I didn't have the set, because I agree with that, the breaking it down, rolling it, whatever. There's a whole process to that adds to the actual outcome, because there's a lot of conversation that comes with that thought. Maybe you discover a new album, something like that. So I do agree with that.
No, the ritual of smoking. I barely smoke flower anymore. You know what I mean? It's, but when I do enjoy a good roll, a tight roll on some, some Garcia Vague, some green leaves, you know what I mean? And the whole thing. And it takes you in a different place, but I don't always have the time for that. And I always have the space to be smelling like that. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. Right. And so, but yeah. No.
So again, if I'm the roller, so you saying I could be the pre-roll? So are there sweatshops of pre-roll folks? I thought there was a machine that was rolling.
Yeah, there actually is a really dope machine. It can roll about 500 pre-rolls and one. Not really roll them, but stuff them with your ground flower. So I wouldn't say just want to roll, but if you want to add specialty rolling to that, I saw on a show some guy was doing a roll. He rolled it in a cannabis leaf and then put some hash and then some oil and then some moon rocks and then dipped it in something else and then rolled. So those types of cigar type rolls.
Yeah, that shit was man.
Keep that guy away from me. Bad experience with that. That turned out poor for myself.
That was. Man, that's the moon rocks they do not lie. Not one part of that is a false advertisement. I would like to say. Wow. So I mean, how did you what is your skill set that you were doing before you got into the industry that you then accentuated within?
Ooh, okay. So what brought me into this space? So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I was involved in government relations, politics, policy development out there for a really long time. I worked on some legislation when I was with an assembly member in plain sight. NYPD was really great about stop and frisk, turn out your pockets. Once you turn out your pockets, the weed in your pocket then became a charge, right? So we worked on legislation to kind of amend that to make it more of a citation. And then when I worked for the Economic Development Corporation, I was like, ooh, how can we create? My whole job in that role was to think about how to create additional jobs, right? And I was like, well, I think if we legalize weed, we might get somewhere, right? I looked at Colorado, I looked at California, the sky hadn't fallen. let's think about weed legalization. Everybody laughed at me. And so for like 3 years, I kept like drumming the beat. Guys, we got to legalize weed. We got to talk about it. This is a whole industry. You just don't understand what we're missing and what we can do to really effectuate change, make sure the Black and brown folks have access, right? And they continue to laugh at me, but I never really stopped and met some great people along the way. You know, like, you're not going to tell me no. I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do and still get paid for it. So like afterwards, I would kind of write my proposal, draft it up, and you couldn't deny the science. You couldn't deny the research. You couldn't deny the economic models. So I talked to the electeds that I knew from my previous role, like, hey guys, Senator so-and-so, Assemblyman so-and-so, let's really get to this. Let's get busy. Here's a proposal. Here's the framework. Do what you have to do. Through that advocacy, I was appointed to the mayor's task force on cannabis legalization. We came up with a bunch of recommendations, talked about those ad nauseum to whoever would listen. I met the market president of Goodblend, Liz Conway, through that advocacy work. And we just kind of kept in partnership. And then she was like, hey, do you want to come out to Pittsburgh? I was like, no, thank you. But
but everything's on Zoom now.
Because I've been here before. I went to grad school at Pitt many moons ago. And so I was like, ooh, yeah, I know what Pittsburgh is about. But it was an opportunity of a lifetime. I really couldn't turn it down, and it gave me the ability to actually be in the industry and not just be theorizing about it from the policy side. It would have given me a lot of just experience and exposure. And then, you know, the Pandanera in New York was a little bit harder than it was in Pittsburgh, and I was kind of ready for a change, like just to get out of New York. I love Brooklyn always, but wanted a little bit more space. I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. Let's see what we can do, how we can get busy. And the funny thing is like, I left New York probably the end of March. I think by April 1st, they had legalized adult use. So I was like, shit, maybe my timing was off, but there's always, you know, the time to come back. Like I said, the industry just keeps growing. And so I don't doubt that New York will see me at some point, but right now I'm really enjoying doing something like this in a city like this, because I think the need is greater than it ever was in Brooklyn.
That is hella. That man got.
She answered the fuck out of your question.
Yeah, man.
She answered the fuck out of your. It was almost as if you challenged her.
No.
She ran it down like on a scroll.
I mean, she's polished. I would say. Very. I'm taking notes.
Yeah, but so it's great to see. It's funny. Like once you have a passion and you pursue that, just the roads that it could take you. Like just it could take you anywhere, and then find yourself in the industry. And now I'm interested though now. Jumping from the policy side to being in the industry, right? It almost feels like like we lost you on the policy side. Well, we need you over there. Like was that a battle that you had to fight internally?
No, because as much as I love New York, I can say this because I don't work in city government anymore. I didn't really want to work for the governor. Not Cuomo, not quite the thing that I wanted to attach to my career. So I was able to like separate that a little bit. Again, love New York, but we just elected a former police captain to be the mayor. Not sure that would align with the goals that I had. So I think politically, New York had just shifted in a way. And I was like, I can always work from the outside. And honestly, you get a lot more done when you're working the outside in versus the inside out. I don't have to convince anybody of cannabis's benefits now. Now they know they're going to come to me and look at me as an expert, a subject matter expert. So I kind of like, I'm still in the game. I get to do all the things I wanted to do, but I have a lot more credibility and backing because I'm in the industry versus being on the policy side.
So you say the need is greater here than in New York. Can you speak more on that?
I mean, of course, like Pittsburgh is really interesting. I think, especially in terms of race and economic standing, right? Like Black folks in this town occupy a very unique space juxtaposed to others. And I think that I don't know why this happens, but I feel like the Black middle class in Pittsburgh is maybe it's not in the center city.
Have you found
it? Huh?
You found the Black middle class in Pittsburgh?
If you find a Black middle class neighborhood, like I'm buying space. So
like I think that's a population that has a lot of room to grow, right? We haven't really identified what the Black middle class looks like in Pittsburgh, and cannabis is a great way to get people to the Black middle class and really create more economic opportunity. I think a city like this where there's so much money involved in it, y'all have so much old industry business money, so much foundation money, but it's not quite trickling down in the way it needs to trickle down.
Right.
And so if you add possibly a new industry to that, what can you do? Like, what new programs can you create with this new industry that connects these foundations and all of these job training programs and provides an outlet for the people who go through them to actually get jobs and move on up? And so I think this is just it's a bit more unique. We have a bit more opportunity to accomplish those goals in Pittsburgh versus New York, because New York, everybody's a hustler. Everybody's trying to do what they're going to do, and they're just going for the goal. But Pittsburgh, I think you got to bring folks along a little bit, and show them the benefits and really prove to them what you're about. So it's a bit of a challenge and opportunity, and that's kind of like how I like to operate.
So how do you? It's interesting. I like what you're saying, but I'm also like, having lived in Pittsburgh, it's a blue collar, old, traditional, like. It's weird. So when you bring an industry like that in, how do you decriminalize the industry from a perception standpoint? So where they can say, because I know even with us, we run into some situations where some grant money, people are hesitant to give just because we're in the beer industry technically. Like, we're in that industry. So I would imagine the marijuana industry gets that tenfold, where it's just like, yo, we love your idea, but I don't know if we can align ourselves with that, because that particular thing is weed and not cannabis.
Weed? Weed? Did you say weed? I don't know about that. Adderall, though.
You know what I'm saying? Big pharma, everybody's
we good to go.
We good to go
More,
with that.
Please.
That shit crazy.
It's funny, right? People still have these preconceived notions about cannabis. And I think what you really need to do is break it down and kind of counter all of that. Like, my dad is a former NYPD, and him and I spar toe to toe at least once a week about the benefits of cannabis, why it's not a drug per the U.S. Government's declaration, and just how it's been criminalized. And so I like to really break down the history of cannabis and marijuana criminalization from 1920s and oh my God, his name's escaping me, and I'm not an advocate if I don't know it. But from the 1920s, the guy who became the chief of the DEA, all the way down to the Nixon administration and the war on drugs. You kind of see through the history of cannabis prohibition, the inherent racism in it, and why we even call it marijuana in the first place. And so once you start spitting those facts to individuals, they soften their stance a little bit. And then when you go into the economic opportunity, they start to peek up and listen. And then when you just really go into what's the inevitability of it, right? We're going to get to federal legalization. Pennsylvania's going to get to adult use. That's just going to happen. It's a foregone conclusion. So either you could be opposed to a foregone conclusion or with it and see how you could benefit from it. So once you track from the history to the policy to the benefit to the foregoneness of it, I think people soften their stance and really kind of get interested in it.
You either get down or you lay down.
Marijuana black man? I don't understand why would they call it marijuana? Like, is that what it is? Is that, because I remember Reefer Madness was all about like, oh, it's gonna make these white girls go jungle crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why they call it marijuana?
Oh, so this dates back to the Mexican-American War, when you had a lot of Mexican folks come in from Mexico to the U.S. They brought with them cannabis. They called it marijuana, right? And so his name is Anslinger, Harry Anslinger. He was the modern architect of our drug laws. He was able to associate marijuana with Mexicans and Black folks, and it became the reefer madness. And then so a little bit of language, you have marijuana associated with Mexicans, reefer was associated with Black jazz musicians. And Anslinger is on record as saying that using weed makes Black men think that they can get with white women. Like, this is part of his congressional testimony. So they really did do this whole, and this is William Randolph Hearst in the newspaper, did this whole like reefer madness thing and did this entire propaganda campaign to make you think it is the most illegal drug. I mean, if somebody flipped out and killed somebody, they were attributing it to cannabis back in the 1920s. So like, this was an orchestrated campaign to really get people to think that this is the most horrible substance in the world. Meanwhile, you have cocaine, heroin, and others that are like Schedule II. They're not so bad, but cannabis, according to the feds, has no suitable medical use, and we all know that that's not accurate. But yeah, through propaganda, we were able to keep those rumors going and those thoughts going, and now here we are, just trying to dispel some of that.
It's funny how protected, like how protected white women are. Like, to be able to build a campaign over, like, just the thought of Black men wanting or feeling that they can get with white women, and that being an issue that needs to be solved in federal government, where you can go in front with your congressional testimony and make that a bullet point. That shit is nuts. And then what's so crazy is those, that same sentiment, while not spoken verbatim can still kind of resonate now and still kind of, obstruct something that's like, all right, this is going to be inevitable. Everything. So we keep presenting you with science. We keep presenting you with logic. Like, what are the verbatims that of the counter to that? Like, what? So you have all this science that speaks to, what cannabis can do. You have, the spreadsheets or the balance sheets of other states that have, rolled out, legalization and the positivity behind that. So now you present it to your governor board or whatever. And what are they saying to say no? Like, how do you argue?
It's the same argument, right? It's public safety and health. So you have, we don't know how we're going to police impaired driving, same way you do right now. Someone looks like they're driving under influence, you take them under, you figure out whatever testing you're going to do and charge them accordingly. Okay. How are you going to keep it away from kids? To be quite honest, now that cannabis is becoming more illegal. Now this is becoming more illegal. No. I'm going to blow your mind with the research. In states where where adult use is legal, teen use actually goes down. Why does teen use go down? Because it's not cool anymore. Like, if your mom,
it's not a taboo.
Right.
Yeah. Your mom drinks wine. As an 18-year-old, you're not drinking wine. That's kind of like the old people's thing, right? So if your mom is having cannabis after whatever, it's no longer the taboo. It's no longer cool. It's no longer dangerous. It's kind of just like whatever. So if they want to use cannabis, you can't keep it out of their hands. But in states where it's legal, they're not using it at the same rate that they're using it in states where it's illegal. So that like illegality, I guess, premium makes them want to do it more versus other states.
Yeah, no, I still don't see that as a viable counter. Like, that just like, how does that counter argument? Like, I do have a question though. So how would you, or what has been presented to measure impairment, right? So you can't not have a drink and drive. You can't be, your blood alcohol level can't be past a certain point. So how would you then, or how has it been proposed that you measure that with marijuana? Because it's not like, well, I smoke a joint and then I just can't drive for the rest of the day. Like, you got to be able to,
I think this is where the government's prohibition on cannabis has really put it at a disadvantage, right? Had we been able to keep up with cannabis science and keep doing our research, we would have by now had a very accurate test to test impairment at this point, right? But we're still in our way back where we could only test the amount of THC in someone's system. And so our science hasn't kept up with that, right? But there are ways that you can tell if somebody's particularly impaired. You can have them do certain motor cognitive skill tests to see where they are, and then follow up with the regular blood test or urine test to see where the THC levels are and make that determination based on both of those inputs, right? But it really is unfortunate that science hasn't been able to keep up with it. But there are some breakthroughs coming out. There are some roadside tests that are being piloted and tested and see if those actually work and have reliable results. And I think, in the next 5 years, we will get there. Like, there's nothing that we just figured out a COVID vaccine in 6 months. I promise you in the next 5 years, we can figure out how to account for impairment on the road at the time we stop.
I got to test that foolproof, the dad joke exam. So have you seen the YouTube videos where you sit across the table and you like tell each other dad jokes? If you can withstand 7 dad jokes, you ain't that high. Like, you good. Just sit across there. We just go back and forth with some dad jokes. If you don't laugh, be on your way, sir. You good.
This is Erin Hart, Executive Director of Farm to Table by Local and sponsor of Barrel and Flow. Come learn more about Farm to Table alongside 75 breweries and 4 stages of music, September 11th in Pittsburgh, PA. Details at flowfest.beer.
So, I mean, with any drug, right, there are side effects or, negative aspects of that, right? Introducing that to society, educating, the society on those, systems in place for people who abuse and things of that nature. In that interest, like, what are some of the setbacks that, or maybe some precautions when looking at cannabis as a, either a thing that you would use medically or even getting into the industry? I know that, some of the side effects of being in the beer industry is access to it and, overuse, right? And having to navigate that is something that is, prevalent throughout the industry, right? So, what are some of those aspects that people should be aware of and take caution when moving forward in this direction?
I think, one thing I recommend to folks who, when it comes to consumption, right, you want to start low and go slow, right? A lot of times right now we have an industry that's really heavily focused on THC content, and the higher the better. And that's not necessarily what everyone needs when they're talking about medical cannabis or cannabis like a social recreational use. Sometimes you just want to take the edge off and you really need a more CBD dominant or 1-to-1 ratio. So you're not over consuming THC. I think another, like you said, it's about temperance. It's about really just like knowing yourself and knowing your tolerance and not overdoing it too much. And so I really recommend everybody to start low, go slow, figure out, keep a journal. It's something that we recommend folks do when you're starting out with your cannabis journey and say, okay, today I consumed X, Y, Z. I had these effects and this was the downside. And so you can just kind of understand what strains work for you, which terpenes are better for you, which THC, CBD content is better. It's really about the individualized journey when it comes to cannabis. Like versus alcohol, where you say 2 ounces is a shot and you're going to feel X, Y, and Z at this moment. You can't necessarily say that with cannabis because everyone receives it differently. So it's really about starting low, going slow, and building your, not tolerance, but just building your ability to tolerate cannabis in marginal ways so you're not going too hard.
I always say, like, you can always take more, but you can't put it back in. You know what I mean? And folks, you hand them something and they just go all crazy on it. I'm like, you don't know what this is. You don't know where, like, you ain't asked no questions. You just went like hammers on it. And it's like, and then now you over here keeled over. Like, I trusted them.
They trusted you, bro.
I trusted them to be an adult about the situation. You know what I mean? And it's like, listen, you can always take more, right? Yeah, I mean, it ain't going nowhere. But you can't put that genie back in the bottle, bro.
Oh, once those floodgates are open, Yeah, the finding out that you too high is probably the worst feeling because it's like a wasted high.
It's like you're just stuck. You can't move. You're just here.
You're like, damn, this was some good shit, and I'm not experiencing none of that. I'm in another galaxy right now. But I think, you know what it is, as I've gotten older too, I think in our neighborhoods, like in our, you know what I'm saying, our demographic, like, I don't think drug exploration is something that, I think it's taboo up front. Like, I think there are certain drugs, you know, you smoke weed, all right, cool. But then outside of smoking weed, it's like everything else is whatever, right? People are doing certain drugs, but I found that when I got to college and I started, you know, talking to more affluent individuals, like those people like experiment with drugs. And then when you start looking at some of the professionals, like the higher end professionals and more educated individuals, like they have the drugs down to a science. Like they know exactly what to like. You'd be amazed that your doctors be getting high off some shit, but they know exactly how to take the shit to get what they want from the shit. And I think how do we open that conversation though, where it's like, you don't encourage drugs, but I mean, drugs ain't,
I think having, you know, looking at drugs in general as not a good thing, bad thing, but as, you know, your relationship and society's relationship with that, right? I mean, and where you fall on that scale, and like demonizing it and criminalizing it, you know, doesn't allow for that exploration and that education that comes with it. And like white folks are able to do that because like they can explore, because if they get caught with it, they're not going to jail, and they have money to access so they can play around with it a little bit. You know what I mean? And if they really fall off, they have access to healthcare as well to get back on, right? You know what I mean? So we don't have that. We get caught with it, we go to jail. We get a problem, we lose our job, we go to jail, right? You know what I mean? Like there's not a lot of safety nets for us to explore with that. And that's the thing, you know, like I understand, like, you know, as an 80s baby, you know, I mean, coming up in the crack epidemic, you know what I mean? Like I see that and I understand this, our, you know, folks saying like, oh shit, bad, you know, like, you know what I mean, let's just demonize it all. But you're right. Like now we're at a place where like we do need to, you know, I mean, I feel like that conversation needs to be had in a more like, you know, like an adult situation and just saying, okay, well, you know, like, because we are using a lot of drugs.
I mean, they here. They ain't went
like
nowhere.
The opiates,
somebody
the poppy seeds is popping right now, right?
And people are thinking of creative ways to ingest this shit. Like, there's this whole shit happening over here, and we sitting over here like, oh, we can't touch that. Like, I found out that everybody be taking shrooms. I'm like, the shrooms wasn't something that it took till it was like 2020, where I was like, well, all right.
and they're
That's something I could consider.
And they're about to they're looking at they're experimenting, looking at legalizing. I have a friend that is, right now as a psychiatrist is taking training on working with psychedelics because they're saying how you can reach certain traumas more quickly and get over it more quickly because it kind of takes away a lot of those barriers that you have while you're in therapy and whatnot, right? But these are things that they're already there, and we're just nah, we don't even fuck with that.
I don't fuck with that. But it's probably. But I would say this too. Growing up, in East Cleveland, it wasn't a shrooms dealer walking around either.
No, right?
Nobody just quit shrooms. And those individuals typically are within that industry though. They're more educated about that. So you find in certain industries even if it's not quite legal yet or whatever, they know what the fuck they talking about. They know what they're selling you. You know what I'm saying? Again, you in East Cleveland, a dude gonna try to sell you something. He gonna say, look at the hairs on this.
Right.
He don't know. They don't know. I ain't hear about indica sativas. I was 31 years old before I heard those terms. I don't know what the hell I was smoking before the party.
This is mids.
I don't know what the fuck I smoked before homecoming.
I got that 50.
Homecoming junior year, I was happy. Homecoming senior year, I was asleep. I don't know what the fuck. It was all haze. I thought it was all haze.
It was all haze and perp. Nothing else, no difference.
Oh, when Cameron and them started talking about purple haze, but they was selling anything called it purple. I felt like these was shaving crayons and shit.
That Kush.
And the Peggy Bundy. Did y'all get the Peggy Bundy with the red hairs?
No, they called that strawberry.
Yeah, that Peggy Bundy.
Some of that strawberry Kush. It's all right, man.
I guess. But yeah. So,
but see, somebody got paid for that name, right? Whoever came up with strawberry, it stuck, and they were selling like hotcakes. That's the industry.
That's
we in
probably
now.
a strand,
right? You know what I mean,
it's got a little.
That's probably a strand, but the thing about that is you can make up whatever strain that you want, right? If you have the right ability to make genetics, you can make up the strain. There's no IP on the seeds. There's no way to there's no genetic profile of all the strains that we have available. So it's kind of all of that is just nomenclature. People kind of make it up as they go along. But to your earlier point about shrooms and other psychedelics, I think, like you said, we have PTSD when it comes to the criminalization of drugs. And so really all we're going to step our toe in as Black folks into the cannabis space. But psychedelics have so much more ability to, like you said, address trauma and treat trauma. And so I'm excited about that space. I'm excited about the potential of microdosing when it comes to shrooms and LSD to help folks go throughout their day. So there's so much to be known and to be explored with that. So I'm excited about it.
Can I ask? So you said you can make your own and develop your own strain and whatnot. So a lot of our entertainers are now kind of stepping their toe into that. What in your experience, since you kind of on the inside of that, how's that been going? Have they been able to do so in a successful manner, or is it just a cool trend type thing? You know what I mean? How does that go? Because I don't know how that works. You create a strain. What research has to go into it? What I guess benchmarks does it have to pass to be something you could sell? How does that shit work?
Yeah, when it really comes to strains, it's about
seeds on your shelves.
It's about your seed and how you create the seed, whatever other seed you spice it with to kind of make that unique genetic combination. So you would say you want to have Purple Haze and Pineapple Express, and you blend those two together, and then that becomes a new strain with its own set of terpenes, cannabinoids, and its own unique profile. What's happening now in the industry as it becomes more professional, we're actually putting IP on that cannabinoid profile. So that becomes this unique strain that actually is patented and no one else can grow it. That's where you see a lot of these partnerships going. I heard that Steve Urkel from Family Matters has his own strain.
Jaleel White.
It's Steve Urkel because it's Purple Urkel. So I'm going to call it by, he's going into full costume and character and becoming Urkel selling this strain of weed.
And you come out Urkel? Yeah. 2 puffs and you Stephon. Yo.
You come out Stephon. You start smoking Urkel, you come out with Stephon.
Snap. I'm about to buy some Purple Urkel, 2 puffs, and I'm walking into every club in America, bro. Walking out with mad.
You with the baby face playing in the background. That's gonna be young music, the baby face in the background.
I cannot deny or confirm the existence of some Stephon on premises at Flow Fest.
Yo, that's crazy.
Crazy.
It's so much opportunity though, right? And it's And you know that everybody, it sounds cliche, but everybody's doing it, bro. Like everybody has a weed story at the very least, has a weed story because it's not, it's not, you know what I mean? The worst thing you're going to do is not be productive.
Yo, man.
Like, I'm going to sleep. My bad. World ended.
But you probably needed a nap.
Hey, our daughter, she's like 21 or whatever. So she like had like some weed for the first time, like legally, like, you know what I mean, consumed it or whatever.
Kudos to y'all. She waited till she was 21.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like had a little half a gummy, you know what I mean? And I was like, a little happy, that's gonna be all right. She was freaking out, and I'm like, I'm like, you know, the worst is gonna happen is you're gonna go to sleep. And then, and that's exactly what happened. Like there was like a freak out for about like 30 minutes, and then we didn't hear much, and then it was like, yeah, I passed.
But look at the dopeness of that story. But the dopeness of that story is like, one, she was open with you all because it wasn't a crime.
It was
in her house,
in the safe space, right?
And two, she had a gummy. Like I didn't get edibles until edibles was a college thing. Like you had to roll. I remember we once in middle school rolled up a notebook. I hope my mom ain't listening to this. Yeah. These rolled up notebook. That shit burned so fast.
Yo, that shit is terrible. And it's harsh. That shit is. That's the harshest.
It's what you had to do. Because nobody was getting blunts for us. Who's gonna get us blunts?
I mean, we all been there. I just,
Speak for yourself. No, I never had notebook paper and weed. I was never that down that bad.
Well, if you ever fall on hard times, get college rules.
That's a Midwest situation.
All right. You can get the college rule and get the. Did you just rapper shame us? I feel like I just got rapper shame. Well, she already got a whole. She flexed on us with her history and knowledge of the shit. We don't know what we done smoked our lives. She know everything about what we done smoked. Yeah, I'm not ashamed. Yeah, one time, you know. Then it was just like.
This is Naja Andrea. You can check out my latest single on Apple Music. You can also catch me performing live alongside 75 brewers at Barrel and Flow, September 11th in Pittsburgh, PA. Tickets at flowfest.beer.
So what is, I guess, you there's newness here coming into Pittsburgh, coming into PA. There's a lot of issues, globally, and there's a lot of static and whatnot. What's the next year for Goodblends? What are you looking to do on the ground here?
Oh, of course. So within the next year, we'll open up about 4 additional retail stores throughout the state. Continuing to drive our community engagement and economic opportunity platform through our job fairs, getting folks into the industry, supporting people in the ways that they want to get into the industry. I think then we turn our attention to adult use, right? Like you can't be in Pennsylvania and not be thinking about adult use, especially the legislature, because you have Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. It surrounds you. Even down to Virginia. So like, how is the state going to usher in an adult use program that's beneficial for all? I made a joke earlier about the analogous liquor authority. I don't want that to happen in Pennsylvania. I think that we really need an open system where folks can enter the way they want to enter. I would love if Pennsylvania's adult use legislation looked like New York's adult use legislation, right? Because New York was able to get micro businesses, home grow, delivery, things like that really do open up economic opportunity for those who look like us. And so that's really going to be the heart of my work over the next year and a half, is to make sure that Pennsylvania's adult use legislation is as inclusive as possible and helps those on the ground as much as possible. And after that, the sky's the limit. Once we get adult use, we'll open additional stores. As additional states come online, we'll look to those opportunities where it makes sense. And really, I just want to make sure that people have access to high quality cannabis as they see fit. And I want to make sure that folks who want to enter the industry and the way they want to enter it have those opportunities. And my goal is for a diverse and inclusive industry. So let's see how we make that happen.
The movement keeps moving.
So how do people support that and themselves by doing so?
Coming from a background in politics, I'm always going to say know who your elected official is and know their stance on cannabis. And if they have antiquated stance on cannabis, you as a constituent, it's your duty to educate them. I always encourage people to know the backgrounds and the positions of their electeds, because here we are paying these folks and they're not representing what we want them to represent. And I say you have to make your voice known, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And if they don't know that you're voting based on that, they're never going to vote out in Harrisburg based on that. And so that's the first step, is really, really talk to your elected officials about adult use and why you see the benefit of it. And then let's just keep marching, man, right? Like, let's talk about federal legalization and see how we can get to that stage. See how we can get to federal banking for the cannabis industry, because it's really holding minorities back from getting in the industry is access to capital.
Yeah, a lot of banks won't finance that shit.
No one's finding, banks aren't financing it, and venture capital money is inherently white and male. And so how are we bringing women, minorities, and other folks who aren't white and male into the industry if venture capital is not going to give them money and they can't get a bank loan? So the next thing is really, really, really opening up banking access so folks can get the loans and get the businesses started, get those LLCs, and go forth.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even if you get the loan, where you gonna put the money? Because some banks won't even allow you to hold your account there. Like, that's just crazy.
Banks are really closing down a lot of accounts of businesses, and that's unfortunate. But there are state credit unions that are doing business in the industry, but the fees are so high. So we really got to fix that financial standpoint.
Can I get one question in before you do your book? I just wanted, because I feel like we should have addressed this earlier, but being a woman in this industry and a Black woman in this industry, one, we want to applaud you for such. And two, I don't want to ask it because it just seems an easy question. But like, well, how difficult has it been? But like, you seem so proficient at this. Like, right? Was it just undeniable, or how difficult was it for you to
not punch motherfuckers in the face?
That, although I think the weed helps. But like, was it covert or overt, the opposition to you coming into this space? Given that you have, like, okay, they may be against what you're saying, right? And I understand the opposition there, but people who are for what you're saying and understanding and seeing, like, yo, she really know what the fuck she talking about. Like, how, like, the covert, like, all right, but maybe
that was
her.
The easy part.
Okay.
Like, coming into the industry was the easy part. It was getting the people on the outside to understand the industry, the hard part. Okay. I'm telling you, elected officials literally laughed in my face. My bosses in New York City laughed in my face. Like, we're never going to legalize weed. They really saw it as being white and male. They didn't see the opportunity. But the industry knows what it needs to do to change hearts and minds. This is an industry that understands the historical context of cannabis prohibition. They know that they can't operate and start these companies without giving back, right? So the industry is welcoming. They want this kind of interaction and engagement, but it's really on the flip side, getting policymakers, older community members, the religious community, the public health community, and then the public safety community on board. That's the hard part. But the community is going, like, the industry is going to stand. The industry is doing great things. The industry is going to make money. How do we bring the other people along?
You gotta speak to the people. That whole white male thing is crazy. I'm like, that's like the least attractive species on earth is whiteness. Like, there's nothing better than a Black woman rolling your J.
That's why they angry.
Like, if a Black woman rolls a joint for you, that shit gonna hit regardless of how well it was rolled. It's like, this is a great experience.
Why you so angry? You seen the royal family? Motherfucker, that's why they so angry. You see them motherfuckers, them face in the end, these mother stop fucking each other. Anyway, anyway.
That is a very unattractive, powerful family. I don't want them to be on my money.
Prince anybody is
I don't want them to be on my money.
So before we get out of here, what is your favorite form of potato?
Favorite form of what?
Potato.
Potato. French fries.
What kind of French fries?
You gotta go deeper than just French fries.
Yeah.
Cajun French fries with a little bit of Parmesan cheese on it.
Cajun French fries, yeah. What cut is that?
That was very specific.
Yeah, what cut is it? Is them hand cuts? Is them like?
I mean, I don't really care about
cuts?
the cut. I just care about the seasoning. Like, I'm a down south girl. If you put a lot of hot sauce on it and some everything else, that makes it good. So the cut doesn't really matter as long as it's deep fried with some seasoning on it and some hot sauce. We good to go.
Nice.
I can respect that. So that's the first. That's the first we got of that.
Like, give me the hot grease and the hot sauce.
I'm a simple girl.
Yeah, we good to go.
I mean, I'm gonna. You say you're down. I don't know. You said you was from Brooklyn.
So I'm born in Brooklyn, born and raised.
South, okay. All right.
South Brooklyn. No, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, but my family is definitely from the South. Mom's from North Carolina, dad's from South Carolina. Spent enough summers down there picking cotton and tobacco. That was torture. So yeah, but Brooklyn girl at heart.
All right. We'll let that ride, man. We appreciate you coming on, and We honestly, I will say we want you to come back. I definitely want to. We could get into a whole just policy because I thought I was gonna have like a whole bunch of jokes and shit. I'm like, nah, she really spitting that shit. I need to sit here and be quiet.
Notes. I'm gonna listen to this podcast.
Hell yeah! I'm about to listen to it and be mad at somebody. Like, why the fuck? I ain't even know what adult use was. Nigga, I've been an adult for so many years. Like I just started was niggas over 18 smoking. Like, that's crazy. So if you could please let the people know where they can find you and you know support your initiatives with Goodblend.
Sure. So Goodblend, our retail store is 5502 Bomb Boulevard, right by the Wendy's. Feel free to reach out to me, J Singletary. So JSingletary at goodblend.com. Sorry, my last name is so long. And yeah, just come find us at goodblendpa.com. Look forward to seeing you.
They let the people know where they can find us.
Man, if you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspot. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, and Google Play and Spotify. You can find us at IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod. And you can find us September 10th through the 12th at Southside Works at barrelandflow.com or flowfest.beer. And download that app, man. We got an app. That's crazy. We got a whole app for this festival. So download the app. Man, get acquainted with the festival, all the updates. If beers is dropping, if events is dropping, we got a map of the place on there, a Black Brew directory, job boards, a market of Black owned businesses. I mean, it's all Black everything on there, man, and a list of sponsors. And in that list of sponsors is our friends here at Goodblend. So shout out to all the folks and barrelandflow.com.
Yeah, man. We want to once again thank Jervonne for coming in, educating us, making us seem like we're not as smart as you. Next time we're gonna ask you about some shit you don't know about. Figure out what it is.
I'm here for the challenge. I'll say it that way.
But I will say I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Wonderful conversation, man. And again, we got to decriminalize that shit from just a perception standpoint because there's a lot of opportunity within the industry. I love seeing your face and knowing that you're aligned with that industry and doing the work that you do, man. And for all industries, man, you need to find people that look like us and put us in this motherfucking industry, man, because we make the shit better, all right? We make the shit rock. We show up with the swag, the science, the knowledge, all that shit, man. And that's what we try and do with Barrel and Flow. That's what they're doing over at Goodblend, so we appreciate y'all. As always, Drinking Partners is the crew. Epicast is the family, and we is out of here.